This is Solo in the Shop. On today's episode, I want to share 5 lessons that I've learned on my way to becoming a better woodworker. Let's dive in. Whether you are a hobbyist, weekend warrior, making commissions for friends and family, or already a full-time maker, if you are solo in your shop, this is the show for you. I'm Ronald Lowe's, the host of Solo in the Shop, a woodworking podcast discussing everything from current projects, tools and techniques, decisions around running a small business, and much more. So if you frequently find yourself alone and covered in sawdust, follow my journey and we can be solo in the shop together. Hello, friends. Today is going to be a quick episode. I just wanted to share some thoughts that I've had about how I've been progressing as a woodworker, and that's both in the shop and in the business. Let's get started. The number one thing that I've had to learn has been improving my sanding technique. Now, this may seem like a simple thing, but in order to end up with a quality finish and a quality product, starting with a high quality sander, taking your time and working through the progression from 80 to 100 to 120 to 180. Usually I stop there depending on the finish I'm using. Maybe I'll get up to 220. And then if I'm going to do any kind of top coat, I may do a quick like 1,000, 1,500 just to smooth it out for the top coat. And that makes it silky, silky smooth. But getting rid of those swirl marks can be challenging if you take big jumps, if you don't maintain your tools, if you don't use quality tools, and keeping not just the sandpaper clean, but keeping the pad under the sandpaper clean. I noticed the other day that my hook and loop pad had built up some, I don't know if it was paint or glue, but there were globs of stuff. And that just creates an uneven sanding surface. And if you have a bump, whether it's on the paper or under the paper, that's going to make uneven marks and leave those swirl marks that we're trying to conquer. Obviously, you've probably heard of using the pencil marks on the surface of the piece and sanding off the pencil marks so that you don't miss anything and that you know that you're actually getting some material removal. I would add to that if you can get some kind of oblique lighting, I have a light wand that I use. It's an LED that I can hold at different angles. That oblique light will really highlight any scratches and swirl marks so that you can discover those while you're sanding and not while you're finishing. The second lesson is about milling. In order to keep costs down, it makes sense to be purchasing materials that are rough. That can be rough on all sides or rough on 2 or 3 sides, but getting comfortable with starting with something really rough, flattening it, running it through a planer, getting first one side flat, then getting the other side parallel and flat, and then using a jointer to get the third side square to those parallel sides, and then using a table saw and the jointer to square up that last side. That is a technique that seems easy, but every motion, in order to get something flat, you need to be steady. The tools are only as good as your technique using them. So spending time practicing and just getting repetition and getting comfortable with your technique and getting smooth. The smoother you are, the smoother your products will be. The third thing is batching. And by that, I mean, if you're working on multiple projects, each of those projects is going to have to go through a sanding process, perhaps a glue up or laminating process, joining, routering, and finishing. So it makes sense to shepherd all those projects through each step together. You lose a lot of efficiency by having to change tools, change your setup, change your clamping style. I use the router sled. So once I get the rails on the table, I want to router sled as many projects as I can, get that all done, and then take the rails off and get set up for sanding and get set up for using the shaper. But whatever it is, I want to use that on multiple projects rather than taking one project, moving through all the steps, and then going back to the beginning for the next project, go through those same steps. That's very inefficient because now I'm having to change tools and change setup. So batching your work so that you are doing the same kind of task, maybe a little mundane, but doing those tasks all day is faster than switching out tasks every half hour. You lose a lot of time putting tools away, getting new tools out, clamping, etc. Thinking more about the business side, and I guess to some extent the actual skills side, the fourth thing I would mention is find mentors. Find people who have done what you want to do and have found success and learn from them. Especially in woodworking, I have found that the people who have that knowledge want to share it. They want to share it not just with younger generations, but with anyone who is eager to learn. And I was lucky enough to find Lucas at Lighthouse Woodworks. He was very generous with his time and his knowledge, and I learned a ton about building tables and finishing and the different tools that I was going to need if I were going to try to make a success out of woodworking as a second career. To some extent, I've learned a lot from Paul Jasper at Copper Pig Fine Woodworking. I visited his shop. We did some stuff together, but I also learned from him just online and having him as a resource that I can text and say, hey, I'm trying to do something like this. What would you suggest? And likewise, he is very generous with his knowledge, and that's what you need. You need people who are willing to educate you and help you learn. You can learn from your family. Obviously, I learned from my dad, but not everybody has that. There can easily be one or two people in each family that are handy and would love to share their knowledge. But learning from family is another excellent place to find mentors. You want a mentor who wants to teach you, to challenge you, and also lets you get hands-on. You're not going to learn nearly as quickly by just watching someone else. You want to end up in a situation where you can get your hands on the tools, on the projects, whether it's scrap wood or something more consequential, but get your hands on the projects and learn that way. The fifth and final lesson was just leveraging connections. And that has helped my business grow from shops that let me put my tables in so that other people can see my work, to the hardwood store, which has a milling shop. And if I get overwhelmed, I can take large pieces there and they'll work on it while I work on something else. And I'm trading, some of my profit margin for some efficiency. And if the pricing works out, then it makes a lot of sense to just say, hey, I need some help with this project. I don't necessarily need an employee, but I can farm out some work. The same goes for, I've mentioned before that I don't want to do bookkeeping, so I farm that out. And using connections and getting help is a great way to allow you to focus on the things in your business that you care about and offload the stuff that is slowing you down and creating resistance in your growth pattern. So those are the 5 things. To recap, it was sanding, getting really good at that, getting the swirl marks gone and using an oblique light to find those scratches, getting comfortable milling rough lumber, batching out each step of projects so that you aren't switching between tool sets throughout the day. Find mentors who will help you learn and let you get hands-on experience. And then leveraging connections, whether it's a business connection, a labor connection, leverage connections to allow you to focus on the things that you want to focus on and offload the things that are slowing you down. I'll offer one quick bonus tip: use systems. The more systems that you can get in place for tracking work, for tracking purchases, to tracking sales and deliveries, all those systems will help clear your mind and allow you to focus on your business. There's lots of systems you can get off the shelf from HubSpot, Trello, ClickUp. There's a ton. Whatever is slowing you down in your business, there is likely some software that can help, and for very low cost. So keep in mind, when you're feeling overwhelmed, add systems to organize yourself and to organize your business and let you focus on growth. That's what I have for you today. Until we talk again, stay safe in your shop. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, feel free to reach out to me at SoloInTheShop@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you got value from it and would like to help the show grow, I'd appreciate a review wherever you listen. Be sure to check the show notes for links to my socials or any extra stuff we discussed today. Until next time, stay safe in your shop, and we'll talk again soon.